Yeah, what up? Your dude Tank Lip. Part 2 of, blog, about things, the nature of things, change, what's going on with me, and, coming to a realization, about observing the realizations and the actualizations, some crazy shit, like the result of change, and like investigating and inspecting the causes and effects of what causes that, causes the causes and effects, and like all those interactive, like related relationships, that determine things. And like personally, like what's going on with me, if I can arrive at like a situation where I feel like there's been some change and maybe it's for the better, like what you might call like positive rather than like negative, where like I got worse or situation was more bad, and like did that change, like what's that cause and effect type thing that's going on, is it internally, or is it the external environment changing, causing a result or change with me? Like did something happen in something outside of me, like the environment I'm going through, that's causing maybe just situational changes, internal changes, or is something maybe in my mentals, like, or something else, but something like that, like mentally or emotionally, a thought process or something, like something internal, like some type of process of growth or destruction of some sort, like, but internally, like within myself, within inside my body, but also related to like mind, body, spirit, spiritual stuff like that. Is that what's changing inside of me due to all types of process of growth and interactive change that also includes the environment, but mostly what we would call like an internal change, what's causing, the reality of how I'm existing or coexisting with the external environment, like are the changes and results of whatever all that is that's like occurring. Is it more like from inside, like an internal change that then changes my external environment, or is it the external environment working on me that's then causing an internal change? Or is it all changing? Are the internal changes and external changes all working and towards causing some result that we would call change, and then we could then decide if it's a change for the better or for worse, or positive or negative. And so I just got questions like that first part of the video blog, like as I come to more answers, in those answers is more questions, and then like really what's the point? Like, is the point like you just at some point have to just accept all these processes, that they never stop, and that's the nature of change, is that things are constantly growing and dying and changing all the time, and that's the only constant, which many great philosophers have argued that the only constant or thing that is continuous or always the same is actually the fact that things are changing. And then like when your actual life become like under that microscope or macroscope, like looking at all those layers, one at a time, all at the same time, both, like how all those layers and realms interact together, like once you just come to a place of acceptance, like of all that information I'm giving you, the information I came to for myself before giving this to you, like if you just accept that, and like however it irks you, maybe it makes you happy, maybe you're excited, maybe it agitates you, maybe it comforts you, maybe there's peace and like all that information, like whatever, like however you handle it, like ultimately do you just have to come to an acceptance of it, like regardless, good or bad or whatever, or how it's affecting you. And then if you, one of your questions is like, okay, got that answer, but now I got a million more questions, and then you start to say like, what's the point? Then maybe you just accept in a certain realm of things, there is no point. It is kind of pointless. Even though everything has a cause and effect in that relationship of schemes, and that there is some reason for everything, and if you could say there is some reason for everything, then how could you say, well, like, what's the point? You know, and if you do that, is that like you submitting or tapping out, or like a surrender or giving up? Or when you come to that point where you're like, well, what's the point? Like it's almost pointless. There's no sense in it because it's just like a merry-go-round or that fishbowl, you know, that you're kind of just trapped in because like there's always some question of like, okay, well now what? Like what's the point then? If this, then something else, but then like what's the point? Maybe the only point you can come to is like there's just some things you gotta, in that acceptance, there's just some things you gotta just give up and surrender, like to not have the need for every answer. And then if you could do that, then no need for the questions. Then the point, once you accept that, in that like really deep type of acceptance of accepting things, then just enjoy yourself, have fun. And you could say to yourself, like, you know, life's a blessing, regardless of it, this, that, or the other thing. And, you know, try to find mostly the good, even though you're going to, maybe because of the nature of yourself, like the nature of me, you're going to see the bad, even at the same time you're seeing the good. Like, and almost everything starts to have that relationship. Like, yeah, I could see the good in this, but I could also see the badness, and like everything, like literally every entity, from a question about things, an action or something, there's always some type of catch-22, and in that, you question, like, what's the point of it, if it could be good or bad? The only thing you can do is just accept that it just is. And that almost at the same point, then in that double-edged sword of pointlessness, like if you just accept that there's no point, that's when you can actually have some purpose and point. Then you just enjoy whatever you can. And life can actually, at that point, from that thought, then the action or cause, for you to then start living your life and just like, you know, I can't solve every problem of mine or of the existence of the world or other people's problems, and in a selfish way actually is independence. You can finally take care of yourself. You have enough answers to enough questions that you can kind of surrender that fight. But it's not death necessarily. Maybe a life that was actually a death could then be a process of living until that point, which then you might die, and it is inevitable at some point you will. Because only certainties in life are like death and taxes in one way or the other, shape or form. You know, death and taxes and being born, which is really just like almost from the point you start, a process towards dying, if you look at it in them deep layers of perspective. Like, what's the point? That's evidence of a sick, jaded man. I won't go into every cause and effect that led up to coughing and gagging. Wonderful. Just gotta accept. Maybe I had to do some things, you know, smoke a million fucking cigarettes just to get through what seemed like torture. Got through that, survived another day, then survived another day, got better, only to also at the same time get worse. Who knows if I got fucking cancer at this point, and if not, certainly got like some chronic cough going on, as you just witnessed. Just a small example of these macro perspectives that I was just talking in like an abstract way. And inadvertently I just was able to, you know, I didn't know I was going to be coughing at that moment, but just to give you an example, was a byproduct of something that is now a result. You know, it has good and bad like all at the same time. You know, so whatever, but that's a tangent. Like I was saying, like, at a certain point, in the certainty of death and taxes, which sums up just about every micro and macro layer at the same time, like for the time that you have until that certainty or inevitable death, fucking live while you can and enjoy it and have fun and as much pleasure and things that are positive while you can. In that moment that is kind of a death, when you figure out, when you get to that kind of deep boxed perspective, when you tell yourself, what's the point? There's like a death in that. But in the double-edged sword of catch-22s, there can also be a life and a birth in that. So in a sense, 35 years has brought me to like a crisis, like a midlife crisis, but also like a rebirth, because now I know, like, I just understand like a lot of the natures of life, which maybe was my point to learn that, just to then finally accept, like, it's a blessing to have what is real right now, like this life, and fucking live it. Don't spend it dying, because you're going to die anyway. Fucking have as much fun as you can. The learning process, especially with someone like me that's mind's always going, I don't even have to tell myself, keep learning. Like, it just happens every fucking moment of the day. I learn another thing. And the catch-22 of that intelligence is I actually get more dumb. In the more smartness or more intelligence, increased intelligence, get more dumb, because sometimes the more you know actually can hurt you. Because then you feel like you got to observe everything. And that actually slows you down in that focus, because how can you move forward continuously if you're stopping to think about every little thing? So there's like a paralysis and handicap almost in intelligence. And like I've gotten to that point. And like, that's some deep crazy shit. But I'm a deep crazy man, so you know it is what it is. Once again, just make the best of the situation and move forward. Try to get as much, you know, milk this shit for what you can. Because one day it's over. So I've gotten to that point. Like maybe I've just had enough questions and got enough answers. And more will come even when I tell myself don't do that. So the only thing to accept is just get the most out of each day. And try not to let people fucking box you in. Or make life a prison or a jail. Or that you're a modern day slave, even if you are. Which in a sense we all are to something. In the attachment of things. And the cause and effects of relationships. And the rhyme and reason of shit. So just choose your attitude, like Viktor Frankl says, in that prisonness, or as a prisoner or a slave. And that's the last of the great human freedoms. And to free myself, I have to choose that attitude to make the best of even a shitty situation. Which could be good or bad. It depends whose perspective's looking at it, you know? Everything's got multiple answers to it. Depends who's looking at it, what way they're looking at it, this, that, and the other thing. So, do you want pain or pleasure? I'd rather feel some pleasure and fun, if fun produces a feeling of pleasure. Until it gets to a point where you lose so much control that no matter what you do, it's just pain. I'm sure that day will come. It's felt like it's been here already for a long time. You know? Tank Lip shit. Jason Lip. You know? It just is what it is. So, you know, maybe I help you with this perspective. Maybe this is nonsense to you. I don't fucking know. You know, this is my reality. Welcome to my world. And maybe it's yours too. Maybe it's not yours and I just gave you a little perspective you didn't have. About some shit. You know, peace. 2015 shit. Tank Lip. On some June 2015. Yeah.